A quick Google search will turn up lots of guidance and best practices when it comes to enhancing your spirit tasting experience. And for this reason, we thought we'd give you a few tips on how to taste rum. I'd really get the most enjoyment from the rum instead of going through a step-by-step description of this is how you taste rum. And so it gives us our first tip, which is this: be careful when you're reading those online reviews before you actually try an individual rum. It could potentially really influence your opinion either positively or negatively while you're attempting to discover the subtleties that they're discussing about the rums. There's some great reviewers out there. They have some amazing palates and linguistic skills. However, it really seems that some specific details about individual rums really varies greatly between these different reviewers. Let's talk a little bit about the basics of rum tasting. Flavor is the blend of taste and smell sensations. Humans detect over 10,000 aromas, but really only 5 tastes, like sweet and sour, bitter. You don't taste bananas, you smell bananas, but you actually taste sweet. If you add what's known as mouthfeel, which is the level of oily, dryness, hot or cold temperature, texture, that gets you the total flavor. So broken down this way, flavor really equals aroma plus taste plus mouthfeel. And flavor is 90% aroma in spirits. Now, mouthfeel and taste really change little from spirit to spirit. Really, the biggest difference between bourbons, tequilas, etc., and rums is aroma. The rum producers actually engineer aromas all the way from the sugarcane source up to bottling. Now, since the aroma is such an important element, it's important to actually be able to detect it while you're enjoying a rum. This leads us to tip number 2. Well, choose the right glass. Yeah, as a rummelier, you should know the advantages of each type of glass. Quite honestly, you can choose any type of glass you want to partake of your favorite beverage, rum, but it really makes sense to choose a glass that can actually enhance the flavor and aroma. There's a lot of types out there, such as the Riedells, Hinkels, Norlands, the Stazzle nosing glass, the Luigi Bormioli snifter. But let's take a look at a few of the most popular types. Really, the best way to determine which works best for you is just to simply try them all out. Now, let's take a look first at the Glencairn glass, which was created by Glencairn Crystal Limited. This design was inspired by the nosing glasses used in different whiskey labs. The smaller tapered opening allows for a concentration of the scents of the spirit. Now, the Copita, which is shaped like a tulip, it really facilitates the nosing, and you'll see a lot of these when you do the distillery tours. The Impitoyable, which is made by Peugeot, this glass has a real wide base, which encourages the release of aromatic compounds due to a real large surface area, which is then channeled up this flute. And as a result, the aromas are not just amplified when you're sniffing, but also when you're tasting it as well, which allows for really a greater appreciation of the rum. The rum's real nuances through these aromas that complement the flavors. Now, what makes this one a little bit different than those other ones is there's this central dome that gives the base kind of a donut shape, which is designed to reduce this alcohol bloom by preventing the concentration at the center. It was kind of neat too, is you can add this cooling base, which will slowly chill the rum without really having to add any ice. Now, the NEAT glass, which stands for Naturally Engineered Aroma Technology, the logic behind the NEAT glass, the shape is this. It's in order to maximize the evaporation of the vapors in the rum, you really want a large surface on the rum, which should help with the nosing. Now, like some of the other glasses, the neck tapers and then widens, which theoretically allows that harsh alcohol to diffuse, which should really eliminate some of that alcohol punch. And then there's the tumbler, which is actually designed for mixed drinks or for enjoying those spirits on the rocks. Now, speaking of ice, that brings us to tip number 3. Should you add ice or not? Again, it all comes down to personal preference of yours or the person you're with. But be aware, though, when you start adding that ice or water to the rum, it's actually going to change the flavor a bit. If you really like adding that ice to your spirits, maybe begin your rum tasting neat and then add the rocks in there a bit later on. Tip number 4. Appearances can really reveal a lot. There's a great tip by Joey Spence, who's the master blender from Appleton Estate. She suggests viewing that rum in a glass with a bit of light. You can see the slightly green ring where the rum meets the glass. And the darker the ring is, the older that the rum may be. Kind of a neat tip. Thanks, Joey. Tip number 5, make sure to nourish yourself beforehand, but be careful about what you have to eat. That really awesome spicy Mexican dinner that you had, that's going to alter your tasting ability. Also, be sure to cleanse your palate between the rum tastings, maybe with some crackers or some other bland food. Our evenings at the Society usually involve multiple rums, and the diversity amongst them can drastically affect and influence each other. So don't forget to either get a new glass when you try a new rum, or at the very least wash out your old glass so they don't affect each other. Tip number 6, first taste impressions are actually usually deceiving. When you take that first taste, more than likely your mouth is like assaulted by a lot of things going on. Your brain is really trying to decipher all this data and is actually getting a bit confused. Let's let things settle down for a little bit and then have the second sip. Now the real flavors and the characteristics will begin to be revealed. You're actually going to get the real taste then. Tip number 7, and guess what? You're not finished yet. When you're finished, you're not really finished. Rum tasting, it's not a sprint. After the glass is empty, wait for a little bit before you move on to the next rum. The folks from Havana Club suggest take that empty glass, and turn it upside down on the counter, and then wait for a minute or so. Now, while you're waiting, enjoy those flavors that were left behind. Now, smell the inside of that empty glass with the absence of the alcohol. You should catch what they say, the true aromas derived from the aging of the rum. Now, last tip is pretty simple. Look, enjoy. Sometimes we get caught up in the science and the process of the rum spirit. Just relax, let your senses take over, and again, enjoy. Now, all this discussion about rum tasting has suddenly made me a bit thirsty, so I think I'll have to go try a few more. So, cheers.